for August the 13th, 2021. And this is to consider redistricting names from Clark County Republican Party Central Committee. We were all sent an email. Actually, it would have been early this morning at 2:58 or 2:56, something like that, from Mike Stupak, who was the elected chair of the meeting that took place by PCOs. According to the bylaws of the Clark County Republican Party, also in accordance with the Rule Charter, the Clark County Republican Party has, Central Committee has submitted 5 names for us to consider for the redistricting committee.
Madam Chair, I appreciate you waiting. I'm sorry I was late this morning, but I'm going to object to this, considering we already had 5 names submitted by the Republican Party. And again, I'm not sure that we had the authority to reject those first 5 names. And I don't believe it's our role to get into the local party politics. And it sounds like that's what's been happening over the last number of weeks. So I'm just going to object to this morning and still stand on the record that we don't have the authority to do this.
Councillor Olson, okay. if I may speak, Madam Chair.
Yes.
I hear the objection of Councillor Olson. However, I wish to make a motion so we have something before us to address. And that is,
please go ahead.
I move approval of accepting the list of 5 Republican nominees for the redistricting committee sent to council by the Clark County Republican Central Committee following its duly called PCO-driven meeting on August 12, 2021, in which candidates were nominated, gave speeches on their qualifications and interests, and were then voted on by the PCOs with the top 5 names from a secret ballot being sent forward.
I'll second that motion. Is there a discussion? And we did hear your objection, Councillor Olson. I was actually at that meeting. It was a very well-run meeting. And if you read the letter of the PCO that was the acting chair at this meeting, you would see a very detailed accounting of it. I would just also direct you to an email sent on August 3rd when I had sent an email to the chair of the Clark County Republican Party asking if he wanted to extend the deadline date for these names since the council had rejected the first set of names. And he said, no, he did not want to do that. So there has been a lot of information that is false information. And I would say I've said very little about it, either in public or whatever. We have had some emails go back and forth. There have been public records requests, and in that request, it would have shown that the chair of the Republican Party originally refused or stated that I had given a deadline for July the 7th. And that was completely untrue. I have a text message that shows that I asked him to please take more time, since we were hearing from PCOs in the community that they didn't feel it was democratic. It was over a holiday weekend, and many people may not have gotten the notice. So we asked that they go back and do it in a more democratic fashion, and they've had all this time to do it. And the PCOs themselves, by the bylaws of the Clark County Republican Central Committee, called this meeting. And so I believe that we should accept these names.
Madam Chair.
Councillor Olson.
How did the Democrats, what was their process?
I believe their process was that they were asked on several occasions. They missed their deadline as well, because I think their chairman had resigned, and I wasn't in on their process.
Well,
so excuse me, I was answering your question.
Go ahead.
Follow with I am a PCO, so Fortunately or unfortunately, I have been privy to many of the conversations that are going on with the Republican Party. I have not been part of the Democrat Party.
Okay.
Madam
Can
Chair,
I just
I would
finish
just,
this line of thought?
Madam Chair,
Councilor Bauman.
I would just add that the democratic process was one that did not result in a flood of email complaints on their process. In fact, I don't recall even one.
Okay. My only point is that I appreciate that you guys are PCOs, Councilor Bowerman and Chair Quire and O'Brien, you're PCOs. That's still a separate process than what the charter outlines in our responsibility as county councilors. It doesn't give us the authority or the permission to get into local party politics as councilors, which is exactly what you guys have been doing. Not just getting involved, but trying to control that process for some predetermined outcome that you don't like. The party presented, actually, this is now the third set of names the party has presented to us. The charter doesn't give us the authority to pick which 5 names that we want to approve or unapprove. So this whole process has been completely turned on its head because of your internal workings with the local party.
I'm sorry that I just completely disagree with that, because apparently you're getting some of the misinformation. The council was presented with names. We rejected those names because of the angry emails and conversations that we received. And so Councilor Medvedev, would you like to say anything at this point?
Sure. I didn't want to interrupt anyone, and I was in listening mode. So I want to make a couple of points. One, this is much to do about nothing. It's been a huge distraction and an incredibly disappointing process for the distraction it has created for not only us, but for the Republican Party. I heard no complaints, and I heard nothing about any angst on the Democrat side, so I'm assuming and have no reason to question that anything but a good process occurred with their selection of their 5 nominees. Having said that, I hope we never go through this again. And so I think we should give some attention to what is clearly too scant a charter process. We didn't, it basically describes getting nominees from the Central Committee, not the Executive Committee, not the President, not their Secretary. And so just defining who the process, where the list comes from would be important. I don't think we want to get inside any party's process as far as, dictating once we get to talking about charter amendments, how that's to occur. But this has been such an overblown problem that we should never, we should do everything we can to avoid this in the future. And so I'm hopeful to accept this list, move on. There's a lot of work for this committee to do, and the charter is deficient as to even the next step. They need to pick a 5th person, and there's no process whatsoever if they can't agree. And it's a 2-2 tie. I mean, there's no default as to how we fix that. So hopefully we can get through that smoothly. So the bottom line is 2 things. One, the charter needs adjustment to add some of the detail to smooth out this process. The other issue is, there is a terrible overlap, if you will, on how this occurred with an internecine battle. And we need to avoid getting involved in that. And I'm sorry that it happened. I'm not a PCO. I don't have all the direct insider information, but I think we did get legitimate cause for concern. And right from the start, we started that cause for concern by giving initially such a short timeline. We just didn't pay attention to it. And to some extent, that was handed to us from the auditor's office. I will tell you that I was completely under the impression that this timeline was completely dictated by state law, and that turned out not to be the truth. But where the Democratic Party just seemed to ignore it and just go about their own process, getting a new president, then whatever process they used to come up with the nominations, they just ignored us and ignored the timeline. But it was that initial timeline that caused the local party leadership in the Republican Party to just basically misfire and have all these emergency proceedings and closed hearings, and that created the angst with the general membership, with the Central Committee. So it was that initial letter that went out that had such a timeline that, so, that started the ball rolling in a really poor way. So all of this we need to learn from and hopefully get some good charter amendments for. But I want to put this to rest. I want to vote in favor of this list that was just provided. I was hopeful that it would be an overlapping list or the same list so we could just merge them in an equitable way, but I guess that's not the case. So let's put this to rest. Let's adopt it. Let's get out of this business. And to do anything different would be continuing down the path of getting too involved in local party machinations.
Okay, thank you very much. And I'm going to call for the question because we've all had an opportunity to speak. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
You guys are operating outside the law. No.
Okay.
Well,
So
it's
the
always
motion
good to editorialize,
passes.
Julie, but you're
You are
not
operating outside the
100%
law. The charter
all-knowing.
is clear.
I'm sorry, you're out
Thank you, Julie. You're
Counselor Olson.
editorializing. So is the meeting over, Madam Chair?
We have just completed the vote. The vote has passed. And some editorializing, you're right, went on. I believe that concludes the business of this meeting. I understand that these applicants will be sending in their letter of interest, their resume, and their contact information so that they can be interviewed on Tuesday at our meeting scheduled for that. Thank you all very much for joining us. Have a wonderful Friday and a good weekend.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.